See, what is the value of your religion? What makes it acceptable is that it matches, it supports the values that you have. Whereas we have assumed that the value of a religion is that in some sense it's true, and therefore if you hold this religion you will get the right values. That is not the case. If you hold a certain religion, it will attempt to influence your values such that they conform to the religion. But what matters to you in the long run is that your values conform to reality, the truth. And religion is just meant to be an aid in that direction. If the religion holds wrong values, then of course it's at odds with reality. And you're severely handicapped the longer you hold to that religion. The value of a religion is not in itself, but only in as far as it matches some reality of truth. You may sincerely reach out in trust that this is so with your religion, but that trust in itself won't change the reality. Quite simply, you can trust in the wrong religion, in that it's supporting a false reality that's going to let you down. And of course the world, secular world, knows this and finds religion very suspect. It hasn't come across one that's true yet, from its own perspective, you understand. But its own perspective is according to the values that it has. And I mean, clearly what we need is something that will help us jump from the values that we have to the values that we should have, namely values that match reality. Well, our solution is we can only use the mind, and so we use the mind to reason what might the ideal reality be. And the wisdom of the ages seems to say something like, well, God that's all-powerful and loves you. That would be, in some sense, the ideal reality. A religion that recognizes that would therefore be very attractive to us. Then, of course, Marshall comes along and says, okay, is that in itself valid reason for doing so? Holding such a view, holding such values? And the answer is, well, yes, because if that is reality, it would be madness to try and hold anything else. And if that isn't reality, well, the reality then is so intolerable. No, let me just hesitate for a minute before I say that. Does believing that is the reality result in a better outcome? In other words, if I hold this dream world of all-powerful God who loves me, do I find my present life happier and better, and my life here better than if I had believed otherwise? Whether or not there's some, if you like, eternal life after death. And if you find the answer to be yes, well then you'll stick to this. If you find the answer to be no, well, you won't. So you better find out. Practice it and see. Now some may practice it perfectly or imperfectly and reap accordingly. And some may practice it and find life's wonderful when they think this way, and they'll continue doing that It doesn't prove there's life eternal beyond. But it is making this present life good. And if it's not making this present life good, well, perhaps they'll abandon it, but perhaps not, because perhaps this present life isn't good either way, whether you do it or not. At least doing it may in some sense encourage you that there's hope after life. It does seem to be the case, doesn't it, that if the values I hold seem to bring about a very miserable existence, well, that's crazy. You may as well follow values that bring about a very happy existence. Now, wine, women and song may not bring about a very happy present existence for very long. You might find that the addiction is insufferable and awful. So we're then quite simply saying, what values help towards life in the transitory, with regard to how long the transitory can last by such. And we may well find, I think, I'm very sure of it, but it depends on your experience, doesn't it? That trusting in a God that's all-powerful and loves you, and probably will give you some form of eternal life, heaven hereafter, is then the way to go. Because it does make your time here much more lovely. But there's certain values you can have in that mix that don't. And one of them is loving all people equally. If you love your enemies equally to your nearest and dearest, your family, and your own life, your life can tend to be very short, because there are malevolent people in the world that simply would rather you didn't continue to exist. If you like, they would like your property or exploit you in some way. In other words, that is not one of the values that you should have. Which, of course, is very simple with the rule, isn't it? Well, what contributes to life? And what is life for you? Oh, it's a happy experience in the way I take things that make life happy to be, both in the immediate realm and in the foreseeable future within the life I have. So we therefore maximize that very rationally. And the values that are consistent with that we hold to be valid values. They match with the reality that we find ourselves in here. And that's all we can say. But that's not trivial. That sounds like by far the best outcome in the circumstance we seem to find ourselves. And what we are saying is that when you do practice such, you can find that this opens up a reality that you never dreamt of, that is wonderful. You find the kingdom of heaven is here within you, not some far off post-death promise, but something you feel you enter into now that is eternal. Oh, well, you can only taste and see if that's true. And it doesn't look as though there's tremendous cost in you tasting this. You know, it's like when I say to people, you can try a fruit diet, see if that improves your illness. Well, what have they lost by doing so? I mean, eating fruit for just a few days is not going to kill them, unless they're extremely far gone, in which case it doesn't look as though you've got much to lose. You might as well try it. Thank you, Dad.